Welcome to another episode of the Pit Village podcast. Now, I want to get straight into it today. I will tell you the truth. I had this recorded about 2 weeks ago. It's 40 minutes, and I'm trying to cut them down to about 20 minutes a piece so people actually have got time to listen to them. I know 40 minutes is a bit long, but the podcast is about getting a job, and it's something that I've got a lot of experience within. So for me, I must have had 25, 30 jobs in my life, and it's a case of leaving them too quick and going and getting another and not actually progressing in a career. So there's some downsides to that, but of course the upside is I know how to get a job. I've also worked in recruitment as a graduate recruiter, getting young people into work. So I know that there's opportunity out there. So I want to give some points today that when I was a recruiter, what I was looking for in a person. And indeed, I have got a job out there at the moment. People are applying to be a marketing assistant at Prospect 27. We are growing. And I'm getting phone calls about this job all the time. And these people, some of them, they're not right in head. So what I want to do is go over a couple of points that I believe is going to help people out there get a job, particularly in this market. So if you're looking to get a job in the pandemic, in 2021, in 2025, if you're listening to this in 2045, I don't care when you're listening to this, you should be able to take these fundamentals with you now and get a job. Go out into the market yourself as an individual, and essentially, you should have a choice of jobs. You should be choosing where you want to go and work. And this is the whole point. You need to know in your mind, where do I want to be? So before we get into all that, let's think about the first thing you've got. Before you apply for this job, before you even see the job on Indeed, before you send off your CV and it lands on somebody's desk or in somebody's email, whatever, you have got your attitude and your core beliefs. If your attitude is, there's no jobs out there, there's and it's just excuses all the time. We've all heard this. People say, I always apply for jobs. I've applied for loads of jobs. And you're like, well, where have you last applied for a job? Oh, shut up, yo. You run a business. It's all right for you. They don't want to tell you where they've applied because it's like, oh, I've applied for loads. I apply all the time. And they're not actually applying. And I'm talking from experience from 18 to 21, basically. I was just unemployed. I was doing nothing in my life. And I never applied for a job. And he said to people, there's no jobs out there. Oh, this and that, da-da-da. But what I wasn't actually doing was looking for jobs. So, I didn't expand my mind. All I thought was the little area that I grew up in, the little pit village that I grew up in. I was thinking, oh, there's no jobs around here, this and that. But I didn't think there's only a train there to Wakefield. I can get a train into Leeds. So, I get a train into Sheffield. I get a train to Doncaster. So there were all these, I had accessibility, but when you're young and you're 18, 19, all your friends have gone off, they're getting a job in a warehouse, and you're like the bum, basically. I've studied counselling, I've studied, I'd studied psychology and studied all this stuff at A-level. Well, that didn't matter to anybody. That didn't make sense to anybody. So I struggled to get into the workforce. But then what I found is when I did get a job, and I applied for another job, and I got that job, and then I quit that and got another job. Like seeing the abundance of jobs, and then I got offered 2 jobs at once for the first time. And that has happened to me multiple times, and it's happened to me because I go out there and I apply for that many jobs, I get that many interviews, it's inevitable. I'm gonna get multiple job offers before I get a chance to take something because I'm interviewing 2 times in a day, 6 times in a week. Whatever you've got to do, you've got to get yourself out there, put yourself in front of people. The more that you interview, the easier it becomes, the more comfortable you get in yourself. And then once you recognise that you've got some talent and you've got some abilities, which at 20 you haven't, have you? You haven't got nothing at 20. So, it gets a little bit easier in life once you know that, look, I'm a salesman, I can make you money. If you hire me, I'm doing you a favour, mate. Because, end of the day, I'm going to become your top performer in 6 months because I've done it several times in different companies. So, once you know that and you're approaching people like that, they're thinking, oh my God, I better hire this guy. And I've got a friend who's had 3 jobs in the last 4 months, and he's got another 2 job offers now after he's just took a new job, self-employed, but he's earning decent money in this job and da-da-da. So it's like he's got abundance of opportunities, and I'm sure if I went out and into the job market, that I could create those opportunities for myself as well, and so can you. And this is the point. So the first rule that I've got, you've got to be infectiously optimistic with your attitude. You've got to be optimistic with your attitude. You've got to go in there. And the reason I say infectiously optimistic is because people need to see it. People need to see it. People need to see that you've got a good frame of mind. You're going in, glasses are full. They don't want to hire somebody who's going to be on their team, who's constantly going to be coming in with problems and issues and moaning about external factors and this and that. There's all this going off in the world. If you're going to be coming in and all day and just talking about coronavirus, oh my God, no, I want you to come in, focus on this job. There's stuff to do. We've got a job here. Fair enough. There's a lot happening in the world, but you go in there, you're infectiously optimistic, and also it affects your approach on the job market. If you've got an attitude that there's no jobs and it's hard and whatever you're trying to think to yourself to justify the fact that you haven't got a job or you're not in the career that you want to be, you're going in with that attitude. So you're automatically putting this person who you sat across from, who's got the hiring position, you're automatically putting them in a position of power. And they see that. So if you're going in there and you realise, look, I am the talent, you're optimistic, that is gonna be picked up by other people. Now, as much as you've got to be optimistic when you are approaching your job seeking, you have got to be realistic as well. You've got to be reasonable. So I've put a job advert out there for my company at the moment, let's say for 3 weeks, and I must have had 400 applicants at this point, and I ain't got the time to. Most of my day is focused on my customers' needs. If I just hear my phone going off there, that's my customer sending me pictures to add to his website. That's my game. So then I've got a podcast to run and all this other stuff. So when people are that they're emailing me twice in a day because I've not got back to them about a job role that we've already spoke about in the previous week, it's like you're making yourself seem desperate. You're not being realistic. I've told you, look, I'll probably be hiring somebody in the middle of March, April time. And if you're then emailing me at the end of February saying how things are getting on, it's why aren't you emailing other people? Why, I've had 400 applicants to this job. I can't give everybody feedback and tell everybody why I can't hire them. It'd just be unsustainable, and you can't expect that from these employers. So as much as you've got to be infectiously optimistic and all this when you're approaching these jobs, you've also got to be reasonable in the fact that, well, me as a business owner, I put an £8,000 a year job advert out there just to work for me, and you got working from home and all this. But if I have 400 applicants, now what about these jobs where they've got a full-time wage and training programs and all this stuff that you get with a large company? How many applicants do you think they've got to these jobs? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's hundreds. So if they're getting hundreds of applicants per job, you'll need to be putting in hundreds of applications to get one job. It's just simple maths. So it's numbers. You've got to keep at it. To get a job in recruitment, it took me 3 months. I must have interviewed at 35 different places. They all tell me no. And then the 36 or something like that tell me yeah. And it took me 4 months. So if you want something, you will go out there and get it. But you've got to be realistic with your approach. It will take time. And, you've got to remain optimistic, but also be realistic with your approach to these employers and how they're going to get back to you, giving you feedback and all that. You can't be expecting them to do the work. You've got to put in the application and follow up on the job role. When you want to sell somebody something in sales, you don't just send them some information and send them an email and expect them to come back to you. You've got to go back to them, and you may have to go back to them multiple times for them to actually realise, oh, he's persistent, he's keen. So, I'm not saying phone them up every day, but if you've sent your CV off and a cover letter for a job, and you've not rung up to follow up on that, then you just wasted your time because they're probably not going to read it. And, where's the follow-up? So if I send off my CV and cover letter, I get 2 days, follow up. Hiya, I sent my CV off 2 days ago. I know you're going to be busy. I know you're still going through the hiring process and you're shortlisting at the moment. I just wanted to have a conversation about the job role. Can I ask a couple of questions? I wanted to make sure that this job were right for me. And, they'll appreciate that. Just go at it with the right attitude. And the third point is concentrate on the needs of the employer. When you phone these employers up, you can't be phoning them up and they'll say, well, why do you want the job? And you'll say, well, it's part-time and I've got a child and I like to work from home and I'm only available on Thursdays. I hope that's going to be okay. And I also run my own business, so that's going to be good to, da-da-da. So it's like, what? I'm asking you why you want the job. I'm not saying, why do you want the job? I'm saying, why should I hire you? So these sort of questions that they're not trick questions, but if you're going for an interview or you're on phone to an employer and they ask you, why do you want this job role? It's not for you to then give all the benefits of that job. Tell them all the benefits of the job role that they're providing for you. they already know that. That's why you're on the phone to them, because they've got to sell you on the job as as the talent. They've got to attract people to them with the job ad. So they know all the benefits of their job role. So when you phone, when you don't phone and they say, why do you want this job? You don't tell them, it's because it's part-time and because I can work from home and because, it's flexible working hours and I think that's going to suit me for my kids. It's like, oh, whoa, Christ. You should be saying because this job is interesting, it suits my abilities, this is what I've done before. Can I ask you a couple of questions about the job just to make sure that it is what I'm expecting and, I will be able to perform in the role. And then you're getting them then. You're getting them thinking, they're actually interested in this role. And also they're answering the questions then instead of you. So the best way to answer a question is always with a question. And don't get it twisted. You're selling yourself. When you phone up somebody, you're selling yourself and you need to concentrate on their needs like you would with a customer. You don't phone customers up or potential customers and talk about yourself. You talk about them and their business and how your service helps them. You might talk about yourself when you've been working with them for 9 months and you're building that rapport. But that's a different conversation. Like when you've been hired and you talk to your hiring manager after 10 months and you build a relationship with them and they might ask you about your personal life a little bit even, but you don't do that in an interview. So you've got to recognize, or even when you're first phoning somebody up, hi, I've got a kid and I need this and I'll only be available on this day. Oh, no, will you? See you later. You're obviously not going to get hired. You're not even talked about my business. So, it doesn't make sense to me when people come at it with this approach. You need to concentrate on the needs of employers and then they'll see that you're interested in serving them, because at the end of the day, if you look at it from a business standpoint, your employer is your customer and you've got an obligation to them. But I know it's become opposite and the employers have got all the obligation and da-da-da. But this is a point as well. Like, you need to take responsibility for yourself. You need to take responsibility for yourself. Recognise, look, I am the talent. And you sort of see yourself as a business. You see yourself as a business. And you look at yourself as, what can I provide? What value can I provide to my customers, to my employers? Well, this is a skill that I've got, and this is why they should hire me, and this is who should hire me. And then you've got a target audience. You can go to specific companies and say, look, this is why I want to work for you. And then also it's feeding into your long-term goals. You're not just taking a job just to take a job. You're thinking, right, I'm going to get this job in marketing here, so eventually I can become a marketing manager. And then eventually I can be the marketing director of a company and da-da-da. That can be a 10 to 15 year goal. While I've got this job, I can go and study here. I can do this course and then I can do a master's degree in this. And then maybe I can even do this. Wow. And you give yourself time and you give yourself that vision. You work towards that in your career. So it's not just about getting a job, is it? It's about getting the right job. And when you recognize that you are the talent, you'll realize that these employers are fighting for you. These employers need you. You do not need the employer. Because at the end of the day, they need to grow a business, they need to survive, they need people who are creative, who can innovate, who are going to work hard, who are going to stay that extra couple of hours a day and put in the work. And if you're not that person, then I'm sorry, but you're not going to get a good job, you're not going to have a good career, because this is what it takes. Now, what we've got, be infectiously optimistic with your attitude, but then be realistic with your approach, and then concentrate on the needs of the employers. And take responsibility for yourself and see yourself as the asset. So they're the first 4. And then I've got another point, which is don't take free money. So for me, free money just makes you weak, always comes with some form of, obligation. And we're seeing a lot of it now, aren't we, with the recent coronavirus scheme and all this. I know he's just been on news yesterday, announcing it all for 2021. I mean, that's absolutely fine, but however you're taking that money, it's making you reliant on the government. You're not going out there, you're not working hard, and you're not developing the discipline that it takes. You're not having to put in the work to get the results. And then suddenly when you have got to put in the work to get those same results, it sort of makes you weak. So I equate it to like maybe taking steroids or something like that. You know what I mean? Does it really make you stronger? Does it really make you physically more healthy? Or is it just like taking free money that's just sort of inflating your cash at the moment, but in reality it's deflating the monetary value of that cash? We are going to have inflation in the cost of goods and all this once indeed everything opens. So it's one of those. I don't want to get too political, but in terms of your career, say you lose a job and you go and sign on job seekers. And I've done this before. I lost my job. I went and signed on the job seekers. And it took me like 6 months to get a job. But then when I lost my job and I didn't sign on, it took me 6 days. I had a bit of a fire up my backside. So when you start taking that free money, ultimately it just makes you lazy. And it was one of the points I wanted to bring up today, because I think it's what holds a lot of people back. It holds you back. If you're getting free money to sit at home on your backside, if you're getting like £600 a month to do that, why would you go get a job that's only going to pay you 1,100 quid a month when you get to pay for your travel? I've been there, mate, trust me. And it's no good for your mind, because you don't get a job for the money. You get a job for the experience. And I think this is maybe another point. Like, you should be working towards a long-term goal in your career. You should be taking a job that serves benefits your future self. Right, well, I will take this small-time sales role here to get 2 years' worth of sales experience in order to maybe, open a business in the future. Something like that. That's how you need to be thinking about it. The experience and the skills that you're going to learn within the job role is much more than the monetary gain, because that money is just going to go, and the only thing really you've got in life is time, and life is about how you spend your time. So when you enter business, you get to know this, because you can earn a lot in business if you like, but you can also be working 20 hours a day. So what's the point in that? You want some of the free time, and you want, a decent cash flow. So that's why you get into business. But, why would you get a job? And for me, I couldn't just sit in a job just for the stability and know that I've got to work this job 40 hours a week for £1,300, £1,400 a month, a standard wage, whatever it is, the same wage, year after year, no progression. Like, why would you want a job like that anyway? And I completely get it if you've got to go and get a job to feed the family. But I would say take a job anyway. If you've not got a job, you should be taking any job anyway. And then if you want to get a career, you should then be applying for job roles that will be more suitable to a career. But if you go to a job interview and they say, well, what have you been doing for the last 6 months? And you say, oh, I've been looking for a job. I think, what? But if you say, well, I've been working in this warehouse locally and I do earn £22,000 a year here actually, but I know this is a copywriting position and it's only 18 grand a year. And in fact, it is only temporary. I'm in a permanent job at the moment, but I want to take a shot with this because this is where I want to go with my career. I think you guys is going to offer me a better, progression long term, and perhaps we can make something work. Rather than, oh, I've been looking for a job for 6 months. They'll be thinking, what? Why ain't nobody hired this guy? So this is another point as well. Like, don't take the free money. Go and get a job and just take any job. And then you're not sort of sat there being the victim and sat there having all this. What I find, this is unrelated, I guess, but what I find is, particularly with like graduates, are entitled. They think that they deserve a job. Oh, I've been and studied at this university for 4 years, so therefore I deserve this job. Or I've worked in this maybe not graduates. I've worked as a marketing assistant before, so why should I go and get a job in a warehouse? Well, I'm sorry, mate, but I'd studied all this and I'd been and worked in marketing and I'd opened my own business before. But when all that come crashing down, I still went and got a job back in a warehouse for a couple of months to keep me going. And then through that, I met somebody who needed a website. He paid me for a website. I quit the job, started my own business again. And there we are again. So it's like, if you're not going to go and take one of these crummy jobs that you think is below you, then in my eyes, you're not going to get a job. You're going to always be too picky. And as much as you should be taking the jobs that's going to benefit you for the long term, obviously that's the ideal sense. If you need a job, you should be taking any job really, and then building from there, applying for jobs on a night that is in line with your goals, that is aligned with your career and what you want to do over the next 20 years. Now, those are the main points. So we've got be infectiously optimistic with your attitude, but be realistic with your approach, and then concentrate on the needs of employer, and then take responsibility and see yourself as the asset. Try and take a job that's going to benefit you for the long term. But if you haven't got a job, don't take the free money because it's only going to make you weak. Go and take a job that you don't like, and then it gives you something to run away from, and even more a reason to apply for a job that you do like, and you've got something better to talk about than at the interview. And you've got to see yourself as a business and see yourself as like, well, I need to develop a skill in order to be valuable to the market. And this is what it's about. So those are the main points of the podcast today. I have got some bonus practical tips for those who are still listening, so thanks a lot for giving me the shot, I guess. And of course, if this has helped, that's perfect. But there's a couple of practical tips. So if you are looking for a job at the moment, always apply with a cover letter and a CV, and then after a couple of days, call them back if you haven't heard anything. Indeed is the best job engine. search engine, simply because it's a job index listing. So it'll pull all the jobs from, the external websites. And as well as that, it's sort of a popular free index for employers like myself. So Matt, the job that I've got posted is only on Indeed, and it's free, and it just works. And I think a lot of employers use that. Of course, search. When you're searching on Indeed, search for the postcode of train stations and put in 10 miles. That's if you're on public transport. You can always get a bus for maybe 5 to 10 miles. Make sure you're looking in the, from the train station, get the postcode of the train station and search for 10 miles from there. That's always been great for me. And if you drive and you don't have a job, then obviously, you're doing something wrong, because it makes it much easier. Do not mention the coronavirus in your application. I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people at the moment are, I don't know, they're emailing me about this job that I've got online, and they're mentioning the coronavirus in the application, and it baffles me. It makes me think, well, I can't be working with this person if all they're going to think about is his problems. Expect to apply of hundreds of jobs. Have zero expectations of anybody ever getting back to you, and don't take any of that personally. They just haven't got time. There's too many applicants to actually get back to and give valuable feedback to. It's very rare you will get valuable feedback from a recruiter, and you need to do some self-analysis and think about, go out there, get a load of interviews, sort of be cautious, be self-aware and be present within the interview. Take some notes about how you feel after the interview and reflect on it that evening and reflect on it. And if you don't get the job, you can always ask the question of why, but most of the time, I'll tell you the truth, most of the time, these jobs, they've already been taken by somebody in the company a lot of the time, because you've got to consider that they've got to put the job out there for equality and diversity, but they've already got somebody in mind that they're going to hire anyway. But apply for the obscure roles. Again, my friend Aaron's just got a job. He's self-employed. It were an obscure role. The training were required. He had to go for 3 days, unpaid. It's an unpaid job. It's commission-based only. He had to then go out and buy a van. He gave him £250 deposit for the goods. But he's earning a good wage now, and he's earning more than he was before in an employed role. So, it just shows there's abundance of jobs out there. You got to just apply for them. And at the end of the day, put yourself out there. Be optimistic. Be realistic. And, do it every day. When you're on the dole and you're a job seeker, at the end of the day, your job is to get a job. So don't be a victim. That's probably the most important piece of advice. And have a growth mindset. Know that you can grow. Nobody wants to hire somebody who's in a fixed mind state. So if you don't know about growth and fixed mind state, basically somebody in a fixed mind state believes that they are sort of fully formed, I guess. They were born with the talents. They don't think they can improve upon themselves. And, they sort of don't ever change the perspective on the world. Somebody in a growth mind state will see that they're incomplete. They will see that, in the future I can continue to grow upon myself. If I don't know this skill, I can learn the skill. So that's what it's about. And, it's cohesive. So you need to be in a growth mindset for me to be able to work in a team and all this sort of stuff. So it's very important that. So look it up, growth and fixed mindset. Don't blame others. Don't be a victim. Take responsibility for your skills. Look at yourself as an asset. And as always, the Pit Village podcast is sponsored by Prospect 27. Pay monthly websites, £30 per month. No setup fee for a limited time. So get yourself online if you have got a business already. www.prospect27.co.uk. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. I hope this has helped somebody out there. And if you are looking for a job, then the best of luck. Tune in tomorrow, actually. We're still on the Marathon March. So we'll be releasing a podcast tomorrow. It's pre-recorded, if I'm honest. It's about bereavement. And it was a hard one for me. So stay tuned for the episode tomorrow. I've then got one about addiction coming up. And then hopefully a couple of interviews. And, of course, we'll stick to this one-a-day schedule for the month of March. And from April, we'll probably just go to 2 a week. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time today. Have a great day. The Pit Village Podcast.